What's up, everyone? It's Matt Morozic, and this will be work in progress 4, 5, I don't know, on the Vision 2.0 Captain America build. So I haven't done a video in a while because when I get working, it's just easier to keep working, and recording videos really slows me down. But I figured this is a good opportunity to do one because I'm doing some, I got the skin tones done on him, and I'm going to start masking off the faces. So I masked off one face last night. You can see that here. This one and this one are to the prototype. But I'm going to show you like the skin and everything on the faces. So got the portraits, for the most part they're done. There's going to be a little more tweaking at the very end with some pastels and stuff, but I'm real happy with the skin tones. They're very natural looking. Did the teeth and everything, those look fabulous. I had one comment from Sandro, and actually this is the prototype. I thought I masked this face last night. He thought the gums between the teeth were a little wide, so I went in and narrowed those a little bit. It was just a matter of going back in there and kind of redoing the teeth a little bit. So let me show you the difference, because I'm going to keep mine the way they are. I like it. So mine's on the left here. You can see that mine are a little more yellow. I may go back and yellow these a little bit more. I kind of like I brightened up this one a little bit. I thought they looked pretty good, so I don't know. I can always go back and yellow these ones up, but basically I just want to kind of tightened up the teeth a little bit, and got the eyes all done the other week. Those are looking good. The artwork shows that his eyes are actually covered in like in a black or brown makeup all the way around in the mask. So I'm waiting to hear back from Sandro if he wants me to do that. So first step before I do any blue paint is to mask off the skin. So I'm going to show you that process. It's tedious. It takes about half an hour or so to do one. But I've got over here I got a strip of tape, and I got a brand new blade. I always use a brand new blade, and I always say this, use the X-Acto knives, X-Acto X-Life blades. They're sharper, they'll still stay sharper. So I have a strip of tape here, and I just cut up a bunch of little pieces. And a lot of guys are like, well, why don't you use silly putty on this? Well, I use silly putties in some cases I don't. This is when I'm doing around the face, this is a case where I use tape. So I just take the little piece of tape on my knife and basically just butt it up. Let's see, get this autofocus going. Butt it up to the edge here real gently, and just kind of hold, oops. And then I take a toothpick, or I use a skewer sometimes. I'm going to push it right into the edge where it needs to go. Just like that. And then if I need to, I'll go back and trim that up. So it's a lot of little pieces. I'm going to try to do this on camera because it's a slow process, and a lot of guys hate masking. I don't mind it. It's just tedious. But, you know, as always, if you take your time to do something, it looks good in the end. And my workbench is a mess, again, because I'm in full production mode on all sorts of different stuff. And these faces have been sealed several times, and they've had plenty of time to cure, so I do not expect any lifting after I pull the tape off. It's rare that I get lifting anymore. It's been a while. The last time I had lifting was actually caused by silly putty on the Alpha 3 Captain America. My mic on? Yeah, it's on. I use the blade to push the tape around too. Like that. And then I use a toothpick, and I just use that and I push down on it to seal it. Just like that. Again, we're just going to follow the outline here. So I go out of town today for work, and then for 2 days, and then we got Easter Sunday, so we try to get as much work done a little bit today. Tomorrow night when I get home Friday, I should be able to put some time in. Once I get the skin masked, I'm not going to say it's going to go fast, but it should, progress should be a little bit easier because, like I said, skin's still tough for me. I'm getting better at it, and actually kind of found a formula between this and the Wolverine bust I just did that I really, really like. So I think I'm going to kind of use that as my formula, and then I can always adjust it based on how light or dark I want skin to be. So then also in the very, very end, once I pull this masking tape off, more than likely this line won't be perfectly clean. I'll just go in real light with a black pin wash right in the groove, and it'll even up any uneven masking. And then it just also helps give it a little bit of separation between the mask and the face. So, which looks good. So I don't know if I'm going to show you all this on camera because it's the same thing over and over again. I think you get the idea. And it's hard for me to do this because I really want to have this up close to my face. And I really can't do that when I'm filming. But I'm real happy with my skin tones. They're getting better and better. I don't want to say they're becoming easier, but I'm starting to understand better how to get the looks I want. And FYI, anyone who watches these, I don't know, well, probably gone by the time you watch these, but I'll probably kind of come to a realization that I have too many kits. I've got a shitload of kits that I've bought over the past year or so, and I don't have time to build for myself, to be honest. I got so many commissions and everything going on, and I've always said this. To me, it's not really about having a big collection of built models. You know, I have some of my Gundams, and it's rare that I just go over there and look at them, and marvel at what I've done. I know a lot of guys like having a collection and having that stuff around. I don't have the space for it right now with, you know, having kids here and stuff. The room that I would love to display these in is actually the kids' playroom. There's no way in how I'm going to put something that I spent hundreds of hours on in the playroom. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to sell a bunch of my kits. And the main reason is because they're kind of there, and they're just kind of like taunting me to build them, and I don't have the time. And like I said, I don't have the place to display them all. And there'll always be other kits coming out that I'll want or like, you know. You know, I think part of it, and I think most collectors can attest to this, that a big part of collecting is the hunt. It's not necessarily owning a piece, it's the fact that you've looked for it, something you thought you wanted, you've spent a lot of time looking for it, and you find one that someone's selling or that's available, and it's the wheeling and dealing of getting that piece. And I've done a lot of that in the past year. I mean, I had 3 Beast kit in my collection. That's crazy. 3 of the Deuce Beast kits. So, yeah. And I have an Alpha 3 Captain America again in my collection, which I'll sell. I've already built and painted it. And I'm looking at it, it's like, you know what? I like it, but I don't need to have it in my collection. Yeah, so it's really not about having a collection to me. It's about the building. I says all the time, it's about the building process and the sharing of the work, and, you know, doing the YouTube videos and maybe showing you guys how I do stuff. Maybe, you know, maybe you learn something. Maybe, you know, I get a lot of suggestions that I use, you know, comments on my videos like, why don't you do this? You should try this. So yeah, kind of, and plus me and my wife are trying to pay off a bunch of bills and stuff. So I think for the most part, I think I'm gonna sell most of my kits. And I have a bunch coming. All these prototypes I'm doing, I'm getting kits of the prototypes. So it's like when I'm done with my Vision 2.0 Captain America, I'll keep it for a while and then I'll sell it. After I show it at Wonderfest and at my local show, you know, that to me is the most, I get the most enjoyment of taking this stuff to shows, showing it to other people, learning from them. Maybe someone learns something from me, and really just talking about the work and how you got to where you got. That to me is the most fun. I mean, I love the building process, but then to share the work and with other people and discuss how you did what you did that's to me is I get the most joy out of that. I love going to Wonderfest, talking shop to all the guys there and girls, and like learning different ways to do stuff, maybe easier ways to do stuff. You know, everyone has their own techniques. So notice around the nose is a little tricky here because of the shape. But luckily this sculpted piece right here has a little bit of a lip to it. So I can stick the tape right underneath it. Which will give me a nice clean masking line. So I tried to just pick up the tape with the very tip of my blade like this, so that when I put it on the piece it kind of just comes off like that, and then I can push it into place where it needs to go. So you can see there I've got it's trying to focus on my workbench. There we go. So then I gotta get this piece, I gotta push it up underneath that little lip. And each of these little pieces overlap each other a little bit, so which should help prevent any bleeding or anything. The pieces on the nose overlap quite a bit actually because of the compound curves and stuff. But a lot of guys are afraid to mask. And a lot of figure guys are afraid to mask with masking tape. I think they're weary of their paint peeling. And I always say this: if you've cleaned your resin well good enough, and you've got a good coat of primer on there, and it's sealed really well, you should never have a problem. The only time I've had a problem, well, no, I should say 2 times I had a problem. Once I was on a Gundam. And I think the resin, there was something with the resin, because I cleaned it several times, and I just could not get anything to stick to it. So in some cases the resin just may be bad or still curing, and it's releasing gases or chemicals still, and no matter what you do, you're not going to get paint to stick. So in that case you have to be real careful of how you paint, because I mean you gotta get it painted. The question is how you put the paint on and get it to stick. So I had to like be real careful with my painting, and I sealed the ever-living shit out of it. I mean, I put so many damn coats of top coat on it. In the end it worked, but it was a major pain. It was on a little shield. And then the other time I had a really significant lifting problem was on my Captain America, Alpha 3 Captain America. I had masked off the leather straps on the shoulders with silly putty, and then the next day when I went to go take the silly putty off, it lifted really bad on all the edges. So I was able to fix it with some hand touch-ups, but I spent a lot of time masking those damn things. So I always try to use tape, because you get a real clean edge, you know. Silly putty is great. Like you can see, I use it on the eyes and the ears on this guy. That's what I'll do here. I got that. If you don't pick up with just the tip, he doesn't want to come off the knife. Come on. There we go. And I do use the blade to move it around sometimes. You just gotta be real careful, especially if it's a new blade. You don't want to go through that tape pretty easily. You don't want to scratch your skin tones, because they're a bitch to match. I had to go through on the Magneto head I was working on. There's a little itty bitty white piece of, like a line of white tape along the hairline that the client had mentioned, and personally I would have just left it, but he mentioned he wanted it gone, so I had to go back through and try to blend the skin tones. I got it to match eventually, but it was tough. So here we go. So we're at 15 minutes already. So I think the one I did last night took me about, I want to say like 30 minutes to do. And once you do one, and you're doing multiples of the same thing, the other one should go a little quicker, simply because you kind of figured out how to do it. Again, I got this compound curve here in the nose, so these pieces will overlap each other quite a bit. Yeah, my skin tones look awesome. So excited about the skin. Looks really, really good. The Wolverine portraits I've done for Chris Crespo are the best ones I've done so far out of anything. They look amazing in my opinion. He seems to like it. We had a little back and forth on one of them. I had a pretty strong opinion on one thing and he wanted another thing, and he's the client. He knows what he wants. So obviously we're going to do what the client wants. Doesn't mean I don't have an opinion and don't have suggestions. So sometimes people take my suggestions, other times people don't, and that's okay. I don't mind. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I've been married for almost 20 years. I'm used to not having my opinions matter. Okay, so this is looking good. So again, this is not hard. There's an interesting post on one of the Gundam pages the other day, like, why haven't you tried resin yet? A lot of guys are like, oh, I'm scared of it. It's too hard. I'm not gonna lie, there are some resin kits that are extremely difficult. In the Gundam world, there are a few that are just like, they're a bitch. And it's just because of the nature of the kit and the design and everything. But resin is not that difficult. It just takes more time. I always say that, it just takes more time. So, more prep work. But everyone that I know that has, once they've done their first resin kit, they get the resin bug and then they're hooked. That's kind of how I am, man. It's like, can't remember the last time I built a plastic kit by itself. If I have a plastic kit, it's got some sort of resin conversion or option parts to it. Yeah, it's rare that I just build a plastic kit. So again, you probably won't see these videos until after, similar to the Alpha 3 Batman. I was just able to share my Alpha 3 Batman videos and pictures because Mark wanted to wait till after production had started. And I get that, because a lot of people, what producers don't want is, they're making a piece and everyone's got an opinion. And unfortunately, you can't implement everyone's ideas into a single piece. It's impossible. So what they don't want to do is like show a progress video or a work in progress photo and have a ton of people like pipe up and start telling them what they should do. And I get that. I mean, if you're going to buy a product from a company, you're going to buy it because you like that company, you like what they produce. You should kind of trust them to give you what you're, something you want or that you're going to enjoy. So I get it, And plus, in this, I find this with people who are first-time commissioners or people that aren't real familiar with the whole process. And this happens to me all the time. I'll send a work-in-progress photo. And I have to tell people, or a client, that this is a work in progress. It's not done. Because I'll get a ton of questions like, well, are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? Yes, I'm going to do that. But that's not the next step. This is a work in progress. So this is where I am now. So all those things that I get questions about will get done, just not right then. That's not the right time in the process to do what these people are asking about. So like Sandra on the skin, he's like, well, is that the final skin? It's like, no, that's not the final skin. It's pretty close, but it will get tightened up at the very end. I didn't want to try to finalize the skin before I had the clothing painted, because the clothing is going to have an effect on how the skin looks. It's going to really, I didn't overlap that piece. It's going to have a drastic effect on what the final outcome looks like, because you have, right now, the skin may look great. It does look good. But once I get the blue on there, I may want to adjust it some, and I'll do that with pastels. Right now, the base is really, really good. And these don't need a whole lot of refining. I'm pretty damn close to where I want to be with the skin. So I'm going to do the tape, and then I'm going to take a little break, and then we'll do the silly putty part and the eyes and the on the ears. And the eyes are a little tricky because it's kind of hard to tell where the where the skin starts and the mask starts. So I'm gonna have to go in there in the very end and probably do some hand painting around the edge of the mask. But like those eyes, that's a good example where tape would not work in the eyes here. There's not an edge I can like butt tape up against. So we're at 20 minutes already, and we haven't finished outlining, and I'm moving pretty quick. I'm moving faster than I did on the first one. So as tedious as this is really the best way to do this. I thought about doing my other trick where I lay a piece of tape on top of it, outlining it with a skewer and then cutting it. This turned out to be best because I started that on the first one, and this was just the way just with all the curves and everything, this was the easiest way, and probably give me the best results too. So I can go in there and I can manipulate each little piece of tape exactly where I want it to go. So after this prototype, I've got another prototype coming in, Hulk versus Thor. It's going to be a big piece. I think they're shipping that out like today or tomorrow. So that's gonna, I won't start that till I get this done. I told them I have this on the bench and I need to get this one done first. I got a lot of prototypes coming up. They're all, surprisingly, they're all kind of ahead of schedule. I've kind of realized that. I've learned the timing of a piece. Basically, it seems like from the time that one of these guys say, hey, we're going to produce this statue, from the time they announce what they're going to do to the time it actually starts shipping is about a year. That's between finalizing the sculpture, getting a print. Okay, so now for this chin piece, I'm going to just take one kind of long piece of tape, and I'm just going to come right across the top here, just like this. I'm going to fill in the rest with little pieces of tape. Actually, no, that's what I did. That's what I did yesterday. I did my little trick where I do this. I take this, I forgot, I put a piece of tape like right there, and it's loose. And I go in with my little tool and I outline where I need to cut, just like this. So now I know where I got to cut, and this is where a new blade's important. And just real lightly cut it, just like that. You don't want to try to put pressure on this because you will slip. Happens to me every time I've tried to like push the blade down and cut, it slips, and then I've created a major problem where I have to go try to fix that. So you kind of learn from doing it once or twice not to do that. So again, I put it on loose, take my little toothpick, and this seals the edge too at the same time, just like that. So now I see where I got to cut. And again, no pressure. Let the blade do the work. If you have a fresh blade, this should cut like the first time. And there we go. Okay, so now the outline's done. Now we're just going to fill it in. Now the trick when you're doing this stuff is to make sure you cover everything. I can't tell you how many times I thought, oh yeah, I got all masks, and I go to pull the tape up, and there's one little speck that I didn't get tape over. So I've been using a lot of tape. I got through a lot of Tamiya tape. Tamiya tape is expensive. It's not as expensive as having to go back and redo something because you fucked up your masking. So it's worth it. Like right here in the nose is a good example where you need to really make sure you got a really good seal because of that curve there. You don't want paint coming back up underneath that edge. So this will have taken me just under 30 minutes just to do the taping part. And I need to take a break anyway because I need to go spray some clear coat on another project. So I've got so much this shit going on. I bounce back and forth. So like I just clear coated a piece. I'm waiting for that first layer of clear to kind of flash off. And now I'm gonna go spray another layer of clear, and it's gotta sit for another 15-20 minutes. So then I'll come back and do the silly putty of this part. I'm going to spray the red on a Hellboy today before I take off. So yeah. It definitely doesn't get boring because I've got so much shit going on. It's like I'm kind of in different spots on each project. So the only one that's stressing me out right now is this Gundam that I've had forever. I've had it on my bench for over a year now. And this guy is Matt's been super patient with me. And I'm gonna hook him up with some of my other personal builds, just as a super huge thank you. Because as soon as he booked me to build this Gundam, that's when shit exploded with figures. I mean, it just blew up. And I have a hard time saying no. I mean, people ask, "Hey, can you do this?" Oh yeah, sure, I can fit it in. And then I realize, shit. So right now I'm in a spot where I've kind of overextended myself. I've made a lot of commitments to people that I need to keep. So, all right, so there's the tape. So the bottom part of the face has been masked. It looks good. To go through, and then I know other guys, what they'll do is when they're done with this, they'll go in with liquid mask and kind of cover it. And I'm probably going to start doing that because what that does, like right there, that mouth part just opened up. Like if that would have let loose when I was painting, then paint would have gone inside the mouth, and that's a major area to try to redo. The teeth and everything. So there we go. Kind of looks like someone in bondage. So I'm going to take a break, come back and do the silly putty later in a minute. All right, now we're gonna do the silly putty, and you don't need as much as you think for this. I always tend to get a piece too big, and I'm trying to struggle to get it to fit. So let's do the eyes first, and I'll only need a piece about that big, and that actually may be too big still. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, it's gonna be too big. About half that's what I need. And again, in the artwork, it's showing that the skin all around the eyes, all this area is actually like a dark brown. So it makes sense because like if you think about it, like football players and combat, like soldiers, they paint their eyes black. You know, it's helped to keep the sun out of their eyes. It absorbs the light. So I kind of hope that's the direction we go. I think it'll look good, more soldier-like. So basically you stick the putty in there, and this is where it's a little tough because, again, it's really hard to tell. Actually, that's still too big. It's really hard to tell kind of, and it's mostly on the lower lid, or upper lid, I should say, where the mask starts and the eye ends. You could go two different directions. I'm erring on the side of over masking because I don't want to have to try to touch up the skin. I'd rather touch up the mask. So I'm taking this putty and going right up to right up into here, and I'm going to push it nice down and deep into the corner of the eye. Again, I'd rather have to touch up the mask a little bit than try to touch up the skin. And then the bottom of the eye is pretty obvious where it goes. And at least for me, the nature of silly putty, there's always going to be some touch up around the edge. Again, it's just using the toothpick or whatever tool you want to get it where you want it to go. just getting it to conform to the shape that you want. More light. I need to get another one of these work lights. Again, just kind of working it. And that's about it for this eye. I think that'll do it. It actually helps that I have several of these around, because I can actually look at one of the ones that isn't masked as far as reference, as far as where to take the silly putty. So like this, it's this top edge that's kind of a question mark for me where to stop the silly putty. I think it's like right in there. To try to do this with tape would be really really hard to do. So this is a good area. This silly putty makes sense in this area. Okay, just like that. And then we'll do the other one. Sorry, my camera likes to focus on the background, because it when your autofocus works on a camera, on any camera, it's looking for a hard edge, and typically it's looking for a horizontal edge. So that's why it keeps focusing on my work mat below me. Actually, this piece of the silly putty is a tad too big. I'm trying to force too much in that little area. So for this video, I'm just going to do the, just basically mask. It's like a masking video. I need to study the artwork pretty closely before I start blowing paint. And I need to get, I need to put the first color down and get approval from Sandro before I go too far. I don't want to, because there'll be a lot of masking involved between steps. Luckily, the skin is the hardest part because it's an organic shape. Hard edges are easy to mask. Still may take a little time, but they're much easier than an organic shape. Trying to remember how much they're selling these for. I don't remember. I know I gave my deposit, and then we came up with the paint for trade. So they're getting like a $200 discount on this guy, because normally I would it'd be a straight paint for trade prototype kind of thing. Depending on the piece, sometimes I ask for an additional fee on top of it. How complicated the piece is. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. All right. All right, so there are the eyes. All right, and then we'll do the ears. I sure hope this is recording the correct way. I'm going to pause for a second. So I'm going to have to rotate that other piece of footage because when I was recording it, even though I'm looking at it horizontal, it was recording vertically. That's probably fun to do. So I'll have to rotate the footage. The ears, again, this isn't too tricky. The one thing I don't like about Silly Putty is that it's very easy to disturb it. Once you get it where you want, it's very easy to go in there and like grab a piece, you know, just not thinking, and you disturb the Silly Putty, and you don't realize you disturb the Silly Putty, and then you don't realize until after you've painted and taken the Silly Putty off, like shit, the Silly Putty got moved, or you know, something like that. That's really the only thing I don't like about it. It's very easy to disturb it after it's been put in place. So you gotta be real careful that once you've got it down in where you want it, that you don't like you try not to touch it until after you're ready to pull it off, because it can cause problems that you don't realize. So again, here's another. Again, I'll have to go through and I'll touch up all these edges when I'm done with a real small brush and matching paint, or I'll just do a real thin black pin wash to clean up any of these masking edges. And the Silly Putty, the thinner you make it, the harder it is to get off later. You'll be going in there and you'll be picking it out of the little nooks and crannies of stuff for a while. So this edge right, oops, see, it's real thin. And the Silly Putty is very close to the skin tones. I gotta make sure, right before I spray any paint, I gotta make sure this is covered up really, really good. That I don't have anything that's been moved or disturbed just from me handling it. Ears are actually not too hard to mask. It's basically got stuff in the area around it. The area that needs to be masked is very well defined, which makes it easier to do. You're not guessing on where you should stop your edge or anything. That looks pretty good. We'll do the other one, and then that'll be it for this video. Just a little kind of masking tutorial. Again, you won't see these until after production starts, unfortunately, but our production is done, I think. But you can always go back, and if you've ordered this piece, you can watch all the videos and see how the prototype was done. I think it's pretty cool. And you see all the work that goes into it. A lot of collectors, I don't think, understand the amount of time and effort that goes into painting a piece, especially a piece that you got to build first, because you got all that work before you even start painting. So I think we're gonna start a new rule. I think I've bitten myself. I've already gotten bitten kind of twice on quoting a job before I've seen the kit. And I know Vince Veal does this. He won't give a quote until he has the kit in hand. So basically what you have to do is you have to decide, okay, you want me or whoever as your painter. You're going to go with them and then ship it to them, and then they give you a quote. If you don't like the quote, then you have to pay to ship the kit back to you or to your next painter. So it does two things. It kind of forces you to make a decision, and also the painter or builder is not going to be kicking himself later for underquoting a job. Case in point is the Wolverine I'm working on right now. It came with 2 custom heads, and they didn't fit at all. I had to re-sculpt the neck area and everything, and it took me 5 to 10 hours to do that. I mean, if I knew it was going to be that much work, I would charge an extra $150 or so to get them to fit. So, you know, I learned that I need to basically stop giving quotes out without seeing the piece in person, because these quote-unquote ready-to-paint kits are usually not ready to paint. Again, I guess that also depends on your standards of what is ready to paint. I spent a lot of time on sanding and prepping and stuff to get it as perfect as possible before I throw any paint down. You know, I still miss stuff, but you know, a piece is never perfect. I've never painted a piece that I was like, oh, that's perfect. There's no mistakes in that piece. No, that's impossible, in my opinion. Anyone who says they've done that is either lying or just kind of full of themselves, because these are handmade objects. You know, we're humans, we're not robots. We don't work off a program, so everything's gonna have a little variation, and you know, but we do our best to get it as close to perfect as possible. So that's my little soapbox moment there. All right, so these are done. So now this head's masked. So what I'll do is I'll mask my 2 heads before I do anything, because I'm gonna get these both done at the same time. This is what I'm getting. So Wonderfest, and I can say this because this won't be out till after Wonderfest, has I've been invited to partake in what's called Model Club, and basically it's a separate contest outside of the Wonderfest contest. They invite modelers to participate, and usually they invite you because they think you're like, I'm not gonna, and this is kind of blowing smoke up my own ass, is like you're the best of the best. Like they want to put the best guys against the best guys and see, you know, who's got the best work. So I was very honored that they did that. The trick is you can't show what you're working on or talk about it or anything like that. But since this isn't going to be out till after Wonderfest, I can talk about it. And this is the piece I'm gonna take to Model Club. I have another piece that I'm working on the side here, a Robin, that I think will look good, but it's not like it'll look good in the end, but it's not like it won't be like an impressive, wow, that's like really badass. These guys are phenomenal model builders. They're scratch builders. I'm not a scratch builder. I've done very little scratch building. And right now I don't have a whole lot of desire to learn that process. Simply because I don't want to, this is a case where I don't want to spend hundreds of hours scratch building something. I would get a lot of enjoyment out of it, just not at this point. Maybe later in life when I got a little more time on my hands and I can dedicate enough time to do that, maybe I'll look into learning some scratch building. But all right, so there you go. That's how you mask a head. At least one of these heads. So, you know, 30, 40 minutes to do one, but you know, in the end it's worth all the work. So that's it for this work in progress. The next one will be spraying some paint. So as always, thanks for watching. This is Matt Mrozik. Catch you guys next time. Bye. All right, once again, I thought my work in progress was over, but it's not. I wanted to show you another method for masking. So if you are a builder and you have not used 3M vinyl pinstriping tape, do yourself a favor and buy some. This is off of I got this off of Amazon. This is the, I think, 8mm, but they make it really, really thin. Tamiya sells this too, but of course, it being Tamiya and labeled towards a hobbyist, it's more expensive. Now this stuff isn't cheap. I think a roll of this is maybe like 10 bucks, but it makes your life so much damn easier, because what you can do, what it does is it conforms to just about any curve or shape, and you can stretch it a little bit. So like on this arm right here, I was able to basically match the contour of this area that I want to mask really easily. So I'm going to show that to you again. And then any areas that I need to go back and kind of visit again, I will. But I do it similar to the same way as Tamiya. I just get a piece out. I don't want to work with too much. When I used to paint cars, I used to do this when I was like doing like scallops or a flame job, because you can manipulate it very easily. So for instance, I'm going to meet this up here. I'm going to lay it down here in the corner, and it helps if you can get your piece kind of situated where you can use both hands. Let's see. You guys can see what I'm doing. I'm going to take this. Let me zoom in a little bit. And I'm going to lay this right into the corner here where I want to start. And again, if your piece has been properly primed, clean and everything, this will not lift your paint. I used this on a cape just the other day and it worked magnificently. And basically I can just go in here and I can use my finger, and I'm able to pull this a little bit. I don't recommend, when I do Tamiya tape, I don't pull on it because it's got no give. This has got some spring, it's vinyl, so you can manipulate it much easier. And it's great for curves. So, and I just take my little toothpick or whatever, and I just kind of push it right where I want, and I seal it just like that. You know, this is specifically designed to mask curves, so I'm just going to take this and let it kind of go over there because I've met up with my other piece already. And now that tape is right there in the groove where it needs to be. And I got a little spot right here where I see I need to add a little piece, so that's where I'll go with the Tamiya tape. Just a little piece like this, and clean that one little spot up just like that. But I didn't do this on the face because it's such a small area, but on a large area like this works perfectly. To do this with all the little teeny tiny pieces of tape would take a tremendous amount of time. So again, I'm going to do, I'll do around the wrist right here. And though the veins have not been done on this yet, those will be done towards the end again when I finalize the skin. Again, just kind of get a piece the size you think you need. And this has good adhesion. It sticks really well. And the trick is to get it started right where you want it. So then I can take this and can manipulate it right where you want. See that? I'm just kind of going around the curve. I'm just giving a little press as I go. Just like that. And now what I'll do is I'll go and I'll seal it, seal the edge. Like this. Give it nice, good pressure, and make sure your stick or whatever you're using to seal this is not a very sharp object, so you don't want to go through the tape. So make sure it's sealed really well, so you don't get any bleed through. And then we're going to come up here where it was before, and I'm just going to trim it, just like that. So boom. So that took me all of 5 minutes to mask that outline right there. To do with those little teeny tiny pieces of tape would have taken me like an hour, probably. Maybe not an hour, but quite a bit of time. So yeah, it's like I said, this stuff is expensive, but it is worth its weight in time. So again, it's a little area there, so you won't need to clean up. And then you can always come in here and trim it. And like as always, when I mask right before I paint, I always go through right before I spray my color, and I go through and I check all the edges and I push them down real well, because this will have been on here for quite a while by the time I'm ready to paint, because I have to mask around all this stuff. So I'll use this tape on all these larger curved areas. And here I'll probably use little pieces of tape. But yeah, so there's a little trick for masking, outlining with 3M vinyl tape. And I'll probably order some really thin stuff too, because that would be great. The thinner it is, the tighter curve it could take. So I could actually get the really thin stuff and do that in here pretty easily, actually. So I may order some of that, but there you go. Now this work in progress is done. Little tip, use 3M vinyl tape for curves. Catch you guys next time. Bye.